Hello there. It's another Saturday, and we are here on the Gracious Hope Livestream podcast on KMTV. KMTV, we are the best from the West. If you put us to the test, we beat the rest. And of course, this is the podcast that discusses contemporary issues that affect the Christian life of faith. And of course, we center on matters that that matters that are concerning the happiness of the world in which we live. We provide safeguards in which everything get in tune with biblical principles and values. So we'd like to say welcome to our podcast for today. My name is Alexander Red, and it's beautiful out here today, even though it is very cold here in my state. And today our focus is on the psychology of President George Weah, the Liberian president, and this is all predicated on a book that was written about the president's legacy, his life, his family life, and of course, stardom. Now he is the president of the country, a country that has gone through wars and a lot of different conflicts. He has a whole lot on his shoulder. But you see, the word psychology is the way the human mind works and how it influences behavior or the influence of a particular person's character on their behavior. Therefore, we use that word psychology as the mindset of the president. And this is all um, based on the premise of the new book that was written by authors Professor Emmanuel Clarke and Mr. Isaac Vah Jr. And in our book, there's a whole lot that you can read about our president, the Liberian president, President Weah. And so we will be looking at the book. We'll be talking about the book as a whole. It's on Amazon.com. You can purchase a copy. And I know a lot of Liberians are purchasing the book as well. And I've read the book. And there's a whole lot you can know about President Weah. Let us make it very clear that the new book, The Rise to Power of Our President, is unauthorized biography of the president. It is unauthorized. However, the authors, according to them, they did a lot of interviews and they gathered a lot of facts and sources, both internationally and nationally. And so they talked to close friends, about 30 of them. And with these facts, they were able to formulate the idea of writing about the legacy of the sitting Liberian president, George Weah. So I'm so glad that you're here today. And the author, Professor Emmanuel Clarke, who has been writing almost like 13 books. He is the guest today here, and we will know more about him, his life, his life as a Christian, and some of the impelling factors that prompted he and also the co-author, Mr. Vah, to write this book. And of course, please opine. In other words, please share your comments, but let us be respectful of our guests and the topic on a discussion here for today. And remember, this is not politics. This is all about, it's a podcast that will focus on the issues that matter to you. And the issues today, of course, politics is involved. However, it is about life, character, and conduct. And so, welcome once again. My name is Alexander Red, your host. And as always, the co host, Reverend Suah Deddeh, is here. Reverend Deddeh, it's another topic, the psychology of President George Weah. What do you
Yes.
think today?
Well, first, I want to say, this is the day the Lord has made. We're going to rejoice and always be glad in it because God has done great things and greater things He will do. That's what He's got about Himself. So we don't take it for granted that we are counted amongst the living in good health, sound mind, and everything else. And I'm glad to welcome our host today. I mean, not our host, our guest today, our special guest, Professor Clarke, Emmanuel Clarke. It is an honor to have him with us today, like we had our brother last Saturday, to discuss this very important topic on the book published by him and Isaac. We hope we can get more insight that is not in the book with the back and forth, not back and forth, but the interaction we're going to have today. So again, I look forward to this discussion. I want to welcome all of you that have joined us today, and those of you who will be joining. Share this link so that a lot of us can enjoy and be a part of this discussion today. So, Alex, I don't know how you feel, but my side is clear today. The weather is beautiful. It is not cold. It's not too hot. It's a time to just walk in the park with your family. And that's what we are in Maryland enjoying ourselves today. I don't know about you, buddy, but I'm enjoying myself with the weather today.
Yeah, it is beautiful in other places. It is not too dark. I mean, it is okay here in the afternoon. However, it is very cold, freezing cold here. And we are glad that you are joining us. And please share this link with your friends, relatives, as well as your family. And this podcast is always here every Saturday. And so we have our special guest here today, Professor Emmanuel Clarke, the author of this book. And Emmanuel Clarke has been around for a long time, and he has been writing books, but it's just that, I don't know, people haven't been seeing it. Professor Clarke is a family man, he's a Christian. He believes in his faith in Christ, and he has gone through a whole lot as an author. And another thing that you don't know about Mr. Clarke or Professor Clarke, he's a cook. He can cook too. Okay, he knows how to prepare. And we'll be talking more about.
Are you saying he's a good chef?
Yes, he's a good chef for what I see so far. And so I will now bring on our guest here, Professor Clarke. I would like to say welcome to our podcast for today.
Here comes the
Thank you.
chef.
Thank you. I need to cook real palm butter or palava sauce for
Oh,
you.
wow.
Single sauce.
That's good. That's
I
good.
know.
But Ellis, I hope that palm butter or palava sauce does not run our stomach, man, because we have delicate stomach now.
My man, I would
Yes,
not put.
yes.
I wouldn't put MSG, the one we call make it take inside, man.
Exactly. Majinomoto.
Exactly.
Yes, that's good.
Welcome, Emmanuel. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we'd like to welcome you and thank you for accepting our invitation. Last week, Saturday, your co-author of the new book, Rise to Power, that is the legacy of our president, was here. And he said a whole lot surrounding the book. And he was able to talk about some of the motivating factors that led him to co-author the book with you. Now, you writing the book, gathering the facts, I know it is hard work, it takes time. Why was the book not authorized by the president? Why is it an unauthorized biography, and it is not even no disclaimer on the front of the book to say this book is unauthorized? Is there a reason for that?
Most I mean, there's reason after we gather the facts. I started the project in 2017 and tried to approach George Weah when I was in Liberia. Did a lot of research in Liberia, but his handlers, people around him, tried to keep it at a distance from people. So I kept gathering information. Right now, I went to Gibraltar, took pictures. I asked people, I interviewed people around his neighborhood, around the community, people that grew up there with him for the past 30 years or so. But 30 or 40 years, since when he moved there, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I came back to the States. Said, okay, I think I can get the information that I want. Then I contacted my friend and brother, Isaac Vah Jr. Mr. Tupa, having been around politics, in the arena of politics and in close proximity to the subject, George Weah, he then went ahead and sent out email asking the president for his, to sit down for permission, at least to sit down with us to verify some of the facts. He refused. We sent the same email to several of his officials, Eugene Nangbe, Nathaniel McGill, Piso, and I personally contacted friends within the administration. But all of those efforts just yielded nothing. So we went ahead and kept writing, and we kept. Then we said, so we can go get information directly from the man. Let us try to get within his inner cycle. So we did that. We prepared 40 questions, sent it to over 200 people.
Mm-hmm.
And from the 200 people, about 100, a little bit over 180 returned the questionnaire. We interviewed people on different media, telephone interview recorded, and the from the questionnaire that came, we give it to some of his family members, his sibling. We got a good information. I know George Weah, had he written this book, he wouldn't have written it thoroughly as we did, because when the questionnaire came in, you have to do your comparative analysis using the process of corroboration. If you ask a question and 10 or 19 different people answer the same question the
Mm-hmm.
same way, it means that there is truth in it, or there is ounces of truth in the particular question. So that's how we got the answer to some of the things that we received. Then from there, we had to narrow it down. Okay, we got this answer from you. We want to be put on the record? Some of them said no. So at least 30 were brave to say, okay, yes, you can you can put us on the record. And we did that. After the book was written, we reached back out to President Weah again. Yet he refused. The same people. So, but most books, I haven't read. Maybe I may be wrong. Even Bob Woodward book and tons of other books, the 20 plus books that were written by and about Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw a disclaimer on it saying that this book is not authorized by. But at least if you read that, if you read it thoroughly with comprehension, you will see that we say this book is based on interview.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's
So,
right there.
okay. Okay. And now the reason I'm saying so, because I mean, I live in the United States. I've seen a lot of books, and books that pertain to autobiography. Normally the writer or the author will have that disclaimer there. But anyway, it sounds like you made all the effort, you and your co-author made all the effort to contact the president, but to no avail. And based on your hard work of research, you went ahead and published your book. Okay, now you
Yeah,
said
yeah.
something. Go
To
ahead.
that point, if you look inside the author's note, the author's note will tell you how
Okay.
how the book was written. That could also implicitly be a disclaimer. You see, so it is implied.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And Reverend Deddeh, did you want
So,
to say something?
yeah, I just want to follow up on the effort, according to Emmanuel, to reach the president, and according to him, his people around him kind of shield him from the interview or to sit with the authors. I'm thinking, did you also try sending the questionnaire that you sent to the people you talk about? Did you try sending the questionnaire to the president too, to see if you could answer the question you want to sit down with him? Did you try doing that as well?
All those efforts, you didn't know the person would not. You first the approach was to approach him, asking to sit down. Once we didn't get any response, it was when we targeted a certain individual that had been with the president for over 30 years, close friends. We did that. His relatives, siblings, we did that. And then when we gathered the information, when the book was written, we reached out just to verify some of the facts in the book.
No, what I'm saying, Manuel, did you try sending those questions or to the questionnaire to the president? Did you try sending it specifically to him? I
Mr. Miss,
understand. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Vah might have done it. I don't want to say the affirmative, but first of all, somebody has to acquiesce to sitting down and with a question. Normally, people wouldn't open attachments. People normally wouldn't open an attachment. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, if you say yes, somebody would say, "Okay, do you have questions to ask me? Send me the questionnaire." First off, there was no willingness from his part, so that stalled the process for over. We started writing this thing about 2017. That's about 4 or 5 years now.
So in other words, Ed is going to come in. I just want to be clear on that because people are listening and watching. They understand your effort. They appreciate your effort in trying to reach the president. McGill and the rest of the people. what I really want to know, did you send that questionnaire to them and say, look, these are the questions we have for the president? Would you give it to him besides the invitation they sent to him, so that we can hear on this platform that you did send those questions and still nothing happened?
You are not, I mean, you are not forced. First of all, you approach a person about the issue. They're
Okay.
supposed to say, okay, give us, that's the intelligent and educated way. Oh, I'm trying to. Then they're supposed to at least answer the first email. Oh, we have received your email and about the person, but what if you want to talk to the person about? Then we would have given him the questionnaire. But it was blatant. It was just in our face, refuser over refuser, and we had no other option but to write this beautiful story about one of Africa's greatest sons, Africa's greatest football heroes, one of
Alex,
Africa's greatest football heroes, rather.
go ahead, Alex.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Clarke. Okay, so we got that, but your book outline or point out some things that are so disturbing psychologically. When I mean disturbing in the sense where you wrote a lot about the president's mind, how he thinks, and some of the things he say, and some of the things he gets involved in, and that is things he does. Okay, and looking at it as a whole, you said that the president in that book, he was jealous of his older brother because his older brother, William Weah Jr., was seemed to be the successful person, or he was going to be successful in the family. And William Weah Jr., known as Junior Boy, did not make it as George Weah because George Weah, the Liberian president, was determined to be somebody. He grew up poor with his grand aunt, and he had a third-degree burn, and he recovered within 6 months. But the neighbors, they were so happy that he got burned. Apparently, they wanted him to pass away. And you get a description of the president's mind. You say he has a hot temper. He's disrespectful to adults. He's narcissistic, which means he loves the attention. He loves to show off, and you also said that he also had an admiration to join the U.S. military, to be a U.S. Marine, but then he found a different route in soccer. So if you describe the president as a person who is unforgiving, he throws hints at others, he speaks in parables to those he suspects of crossing his path, and especially people that he does not like for people to mess around with someone that he has a relationship, female relationship. He harbors hatred for anyone who disagrees with him. His relationship with others is purely on a transactional business, like a business. So he gets to you today, friends with you today, he dumps you when he feels insecure with you. Now, are these all facts? Is that the behavioral pattern of this president?
To the affirmative. Yes.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
just, we are coming from
Okay.
multiple sources. I mean, let's go back to about 40, almost 50 years, 40 years in Gibraltar. That came from that one where people told, I mean, George Weah always fought with his older brother William Weah, and up to this date, both men still do not agree on anything. They still argue. That's a sibling, rivalry. It still exists between them. And when growing up, William was the dressy one, and he was more into education, and George Weah was just, a street. I mean, he was focused on playing football and a street hustler most of the time. And in that environment, it was hard. There was no positive role model beside my Emma. I mean, have you read the book, Reverend Deddeh?
Yes, I saw excerpt from it, for your review as well.
That's
Yes.
not reading the book. Esther is
No,
not
no,
reading.
no. The thing is, Emmanuel. The review, the excerpts kind of give you a mindset of the book. It kind of gives you a peek into the book, so that kind of informs us about what you have in the book. So from that point, we have an idea. We can expound on that. So we have an idea from yourself. So that's what it is, buddy.
So as you describe the president here, his behaviors and attitudes, He loves attention seeking. Do you think psychologically or his mindset from his youth up to now affecting decision making on the national level
I mean,
currently?
I'm not into politics. I wrote solely from an interview from multiple sources saying the same thing. I try to avoid myself of politics as an academician, as an author. You don't want to write with bias or political bias, no. But multiple sources, people that have been with him, and you have to look at the man's psychology. First of all, the man, he's very competitive in sport. He wants to be number one. George Weah has that mind that it has to be him. And if you want to be the best at anything, you want to strive for the best. You want to be number one, not number two. And people don't get it. Even around him, people that have been with around George Weah, uh, I mean, if you try to steal the spotlight from George Weah, you would be his enemy. Yes, right there and then, because that's his ability as an athlete, as a world-class athlete. He has to win. He has to shine. He loves the spotlight. He was conflicted when growing up as a young man. He wanted to be a reggae singer. There was a point in time, an uncle of his wanted him to be a boxer. He wanted to be a boxer. So when you see somebody reach out to me, they say, wow. So everything in the book, I mean, that's George Weah. I said, of course, an uncle who was an amateur boxer wanted George Weah. George Weah, at a point in time, wanted to be a boxer. Then he wanted to be a pastor. He started, his mother, his grand auntie house had a little chapel there. That's where this whole preaching thing started more than 40 years ago. you know,
So Emmanuel, are you saying to be competitive, you gotta be vindictive or something? Because I'm hearing
competitiveness is different from being vindictive. But George Weah,
exactly.
if he perceives you if he perceives you as an enemy, of course George Weah will get to you. George Weah has, I mean, he can be your friend today and on Monday and your enemy on Tuesday. That's just him. What real or imaginable, and the man relishes in gossip, rumors. Let somebody go and tell him, "Oh, Alice Ray said this about you." People, I mean, if you look at the documentation we've done, the survey we gather, it's a pattern upon pattern upon pattern, and different people. If you look at Joshua trails of friends, former friends, they will tell you, my man, somebody told us that. I mean, the reason the man broke away from me, they said I was behind a partner of his. Simple as that. And, speak in parable, throwing hints, as we can say in Liberian English, is an inherent part of George Weah, according to friends, people that have been with him. He won't come directly. He just tells you and tell his followers or his posse, my man, I don't want that man around me. I don't want to talk to him. Of course, all of them would turn their backs on you.
Okay, I mean, I haven't reached that stardom that he has achieved. Likewise, yourself or maybe Reverend Deddeh, to approach or to reach that stardom. I believe that, I mean, we are humans, we are not perfect in any way. Only God is perfect, only Christ is perfect. And so these behavioral patterns, don't you think they are all part of the makeup as a human? They all, I mean, hey, I like to look good. Sometimes I have some narcissistic tendencies. I like to look good. I like to buy clothes. I like to show off at times. These are things that spring up from time. So when people listening to you, people will say, but it is all common. We do that. What will you tell those people? Jealousy, being competitive, they are all part of the human gene, nature. What will you tell those people?
So do you agree with what is written in the book, that is what is written that is true of George Weah? Let me reverse the question.
Well, I don't know. I didn't gather the facts.
But you said you
The only
just
thing,
said it's human behavior.
the only thing I can tell you, Emmanuel, is I met Joshua one time, and
Mhm.
that was on Staten Island in New York when I just come to the States, and I was persecuted. I was kidnapped and tortured by the Taylor administration under Joe Tate,
Mhm.
and I came to New York, and I was a Staten Island, and there's an area there where all Liberians gather,
Yeah, big
and they
tree
had roast
under the
meat.
tree there.
Okay, so eating meat, and his protege. Karika introduced him to me. Say, this is the journalist that Taylor wanted to kill for investigating Samuel Doki's death. And that was, he said, man, are you crazy? You want to tell me the news is so hot and you want to go all the way to Banga to go investigate? That was crazy journey for you. And then we just laughed about it. That was the only time that I met him. But what I'm saying here, go ahead. You were saying something. So what I'm saying here, it is common for all humans as a whole, for us to have these tendencies, like to show off. We like to be competitive. And when we are betrayed by friends, we don't want to see that particular friend at all because they are the enemy. Don't you think so?
I mean, as human, we humans, we are complex. We are complex animals. Some people have control over some of those inherent behaviors. Some of them, some of us act without warrant, without fear. So I mean, George Weah, I myself, I'm not perfect, but I try to control and guide my life according to certain principles. If I feel that something is wrong, I will ask the question. That's not what George Weah does. He doesn't approach the person he hears the thing about. I mean, so he just cuts you off. They have tongues and tongues and tongues of friends. Even Ronnie Secret, this guy, he accused him of stealing his money. Um, you know, he used to hold George Weah credit card. When the went places, he was responsible for spending it without, according to the story, uh, he let a guy go. He just people told you, oh, the man using your money, and according to the fellow, it's not true. He never stole George Weah's money, but because of hearsay, God said he had to let the man go. As this has been a pattern. If you read the book, you would know. I mean, I'm not perfect. Perhaps I know I have those inherent tendency of, like, anyone with power, with a certain amount of exposure and global reach, can is capable. Let's say anyone is capable of doing a certain thing, or is capable of being like Hitler. Once you get at a certain level in power, you can be uncontrollable if you allow power to control you.
Well, if you're just joining us, this is the Gracious Hope live stream podcast on KMTV and graciousHopeFellowship.com. If you're just joining us, we'd like to say welcome and please make a comment. And some people are making comments here, and I will just put them here gradually so that all of you can read it as a whole. And today we have our special guest, Professor Emmanuel Clarke. He is a prolific writer. He has been writing books, about 13 books. And this new book on the legacy of our president, Weah, is co-authored by uh, Isaac Vah Jr. And Emmanuel Clarke is a publisher, and he is no stranger to publishing. And so the book is available at Amazon.com. And I have read parts of the book, most part of it, and even the excerpt. May I say the excerpt? But for what I gathered so far, there are some serious charges that we can take a look at when it comes to the president's conduct that we see spelled out in this book. For example, the president is charged with having an unforgiving attitude, and that is the opposite of God's grace and forgiveness that He has instructed us to do. Now, we know from history, if we look in the president's archive here, some of his utterances, one of it, he loves God, he loves Christ, okay? And he says that we all should pray for our country so that our country, God can bring peace and stability to our country and unification. And it is all left with Liberians. So that is his plea. And we know we see him on the pulpit at the church preaching and teaching, or maybe making comments. But at the same time, we cannot judge a person's faith as a whole. And so, as we discuss here, we'll go more into the discussion regarding the book and the author here just in a moment. We'll be right back. Please don't go away. All right, and we are back here with our special guest, Emmanuel Clarke, Professor Emmanuel Clarke, and he'll be right back. Reverend Deddeh, so far he has revealed a whole lot here that I believe will um, motivate other people to maybe buy the book and read it, and for history,
Yes,
because there's a
indeed.
whole lot here.
Yes, indeed.
And that some of the things that are so disturbing in the sense where the president's private life. Um, is causing some controversy. You remember last week, Reverend Deddeh, when the co-author was here, Isaac Vah, who of course wrote that particular page, and he did apologize. In a sense that, well, it is the president saying, not my saying, and I just wrote it. But those who are um, honestly offended, according to Isaac, he offered his apology, but we don't know if that holds water as a whole, because um, the world now knows the president's private life. Emmanuel, is this disturbing to you? Do you think the terminology or the language or the semantics of that expression on a particular page cause some sort of irritation or frustration for you as a co-author?
Man, when you talk about symmetry, you give too much strength to words that are commonly used in our dictionary every day. Um, I personally, when I write things, I don't. I stand behind what I write. I'm not a politician. Politicians go around trying to do damage control. I don't. I owe nobody apology. It's not disturbing. It's a commonly used terms or words now in America, even in Liberia, in hospital. People are vilifying two texts. I mean, if you read that, I mean, those were just 100 words. 100 words from the top, from 36 pages, 36 to 37. Those were just 100 words. If you look at them, you will see the man said, I read it over and over. I didn't see anything to do with it. I mean, I didn't think anything was wrong with it, because he was just listing qualities about his wife. Reason he married the wife. He said, look, she didn't come behind me for money like most women have done. She's beautiful. She's intelligent. She's educated. She has family value. She's a wind beneath my wings. And most importantly, those attributes that of her in the bedroom. So I mean, he was trying to elevate his wife. He put her on a higher pedestal than any female he has been with. And of course, in thick and thin, Clar Weah has always been with her husband, and they have messed up. No one is perfect. No relationship is perfect. George Weah has gone and fathered a lot of children by different women while he was still married. Everybody knows about it. It's an open secret. But he was human. I'm not judging him, and I have no problem with those descriptive words. But people get offended based on sacrifice. It's just blissful hypocrisy.
So Emmanuel, are you saying that because a lot of people vilifying other people, remember Matthew 7:12 tells us, do unto others as you have them do unto you. What you don't like, you don't do to somebody else. So Ellie's question is there any remorse or any rethinking of what the book says? So are you telling us now that because a lot of people vilify people, so it doesn't matter, you can vilify anybody because people.
I'm not saying I said I didn't say the vilified people. I said the word. They're taking that word, which I'm not going to repeat, out of context. Okay? And let's look at it this way. Matthew said, do unto other as you have other to do unto you. That's why the Lord said in the book of Matthew, John, and even in Luke, I think, somewhere there. You guys know the
Yeah,
Bible.
Luke 6:31 said that too. Yeah, Luke 6:31.
Yeah.
And Matthew
And
7:12.
yes. And so we have all of these things, Reverend Deddeh and Reverend Red. We have all the information, and we reach out back. That's why you do in writing. We even clean up the phrase, the noun that was there, that was substituted for another, with another noun. But if you are writing, maybe you want to quote your code has to be verbatim, But if you use something, a word that the person did not use, it becomes a misquote. So it was very delicate. Our people, we live in a different world, different century in Liberia. Most Liberian, with the way they look at things, they don't read with comprehension. They don't read with connection. They just look at that. When Costa used that snippet from the book, it went out of context. It just went haywire like wildfire. Oh, they're talking about the president, this, that. Women got on the rampage. But those were George Weah's words.
Okay, let me ask you. Let me ask you this. I will read this and then ask this question. I'll read it first and then just follow up with a question. You mentioned that it is in its current state, it has become a country mean Liberia, that needs a leader who will nurture its growth and development, and also teach its people how to
be able
again the second time. A country with a considerable. So is George Weah that person?
Of course, that's how a lot of the younger generation see him. This man, he's from my generation. That's how I see George Weah. The country that had been assaulted by so many bad leaders and destroyed, and has fought in his arm. George Weah was believed by many of his supporters to be the one who would teach Liberia and Liberians how to be able to walk again a second time. But I don't know. That was a belief. He was, according to some of his followers, he was seen as that rejected stone that the builder refused, which have now become the head cornerstone. And as a young man from my generation and many of his supporters, that's how he presented himself. Look, man, I can do better. I can do this. And we hope people built in him. And people haven't read anything from the outside world besides what we know. Most of those millennials, they are about 30, some of them in their 30s, in their mid-30s. They didn't see George Weah during his prime. I was able to do. George Weah brought happiness to my heart when I was in refugee camp. He was the only good thing that ever came out of Liberia, and younger people have put their hope in him. But according to political analysts, that hope is dwindling by the day. But I'm not going to speak on it because we're not here to do politics. We're here to build hope. We're here to edify people as they listen with our word. But George, this book, if you look at it, you will see that this book was, my whole intention was to motivate people, to inspire young people that no matter your situation, no matter your state, your genetic predisposition to poverty or wherever you are born, your family lineage, no matter it, you can pull yourself up by the bootstrap like George Weah has done and did with using football. That was it. If you look at the man's story, it's a motivation. In fact, I mentioned during the writing of the book, I came across a newspaper in East Africa. I think it was in Tanzania or Kenya. How they say because of George Weah going back to school inspired a lot of uneducated people. This was back in 2019. I came out to that particular newspaper article, and he's an inspiration to many people across Africa. That was one of the reasons, but people had just taken away from the whole book with that little snippet and make it a trap for food.
Yeah, and it might seem to be like a little snippet, but people hang on to words, and I know that you are an author, and you know what the power of words. Words have power. Words have life, and they live long after us. So people see those words that are mentioned in the book, written about somebody, vilification, character assassination. So people see that as against the man's character. That's how people who are close to the man, people who are not even close to him at some level, see it that way. Before Ellis come in, let me just bring it to another one, and then
No,
I'll
no, no.
ask you.
I just want to correct something, Reverend Deddeh.
Okay, go ahead.
You say so George Weah is an angel.
No.
You say people character assassinate. You should be careful when you use word.
You
Who
just
assassinated George
described.
Weah's character?
You just described.
George Weah. Did you listen to what's his name? Safwa Magre and Tanji Bantu. Did you listen to their tape?
No, I didn't.
Did you listen to what's his name? Mobile Molu. George Weah is a man of filthy mouth. He sleeps with women and he discusses them. He's no angel just because this thing came out. It's when he's in his element, he talks. That was someone from the president. I got information from the first lady, office that she said everything in the book was a fact.
Okay, so what I'm saying, Manuel, I agree with you. What I'm saying, Manuel, what I was trying to say was that in the face of what you said, you just made a point to elevate what I was saying. I'm saying in the face of what the book talk about. You said the book took a snip, just a snip of the book. So I'm seeing people hang on to words. People hold words dearly, depending on who the words have been said about. I'm not saying none of us injure. I'm not an angel, not a you, not my brother and friend Alex. None of us will fit in that category. But you and I know, and you just mentioned that vilification and the rest of that. So I'm saying, in the face of that, people have all right to interpret the book the way they see it. That's democracy. So are we going to take offense to how people see the book or not? That's what I'm asking you.
Oh no, people can. All I need people to do to get the book, read it, and once they start, in the middle of chapter 13 is just 7 pages. Once they start at chapter page 136, 135, coming down, they will understand. But people haven't read the book. Even Bishop Brown, he said it's a sin of presumption. But I would tell him he's committing a sin of lack of comprehension and blissful ignorance. That's what he has done, because he hasn't read the book.
What Bishop Brown are you talking about? Which Bishop Brown?
In Liberia, the man who went the president for the Council of Churches.
Oh,
that's a
Brown.
That's a sin of willful ignorance and blissful ignorance. Blissful, blissful ignorance and lack of comprehension. That's an academic sin. You haven't read something, you're passing judgment on it because of what people are saying. It's just wrong. That's the problem with Liberia.
Okay, now
this book here was written to tell the president's story, not from the president's perspective, but with the president clarification on some of the contents, which he refused to do. And we put years of research, thousands of hours of writing. When it comes to writing, that's what I was born for.
Okay, now looking at our country's history, we are a country where we live according to our traditions, our culture, when it comes to our social norms, and we say our country is now a democratic country after the coup Samuel Doe from William Tarbell, President William Tarbell, who introduced the multi-party democracy or plurality of parties. Going on forward, we always say democracy, democracy. We are a democratic country. We can express ourselves. And we have seen over time campaign violence. We have seen violence against groups and leaders and people. And we have witnessed the uprising of protests. And it's all under the banner democracy. Now, there are some people who compare and contrast or compare our democracy with the American democracy. That's how our democracy should be, according to some people. But I see that democracy, in a sense, our democracy, African or Liberian democracy, in no way can be like the United States democracy, because we are two different peoples in two different nations and based on our historical events as a whole. Now, do you think, and you may agree with your co-author on this, as if last week he said that this is all expression of democracy. You are free to express yourself. Do you think, based on your culture, your tradition, your custom, like respecting the elder people, do you think you've gone so far by expressing yourself in this book about talking about the president or sitting president, like the first family of the country? Or where does free expression stop or end?
Oh, I have a question for you. How is Liberia different from the United States?
It is different because Liberia is all black people. We are Liberians. We speak languages. We have 13 languages or dialects. The United States, English is a major language here, and people speak that. There are a lot of differences. And the United States is bigger than Liberia. Liberia is a tiny country, about what, 4 million people, three to 4 million people, and our culture, our tradition, quite different. We are the indigenous group, and we have been having this whole conflict regarding the Congo people and the country people. So we are different in many ways. So in any way, but that is another discussion if we want to talk about democracy, okay? Because I can lay the premise and I can give a whole lot of reasons why our democracy cannot resemble the United States democracy, because we have seen globally it has not worked in other countries like Afghanistan, where the United States wanted to impose that democracy. Guess what? Human cost and everything, and it didn't work. So what I'm saying, my point was that, do we look at democracy as a whole in expressing ourselves freely in a way where we can also check and balance our traditional norms, the respect, for the office of the president, and respecting the first family, and knowing and understanding our utterances, things that we say, our mannerism, and these are all Christian values. So, can you say, where does your free speech end when it comes to the context of the Liberian environment or society as a whole?
To a point of correction, we have a plethora of tribes in America. If you look at the Native American, they have over 20 different tribal groups within America. Then America is a country of immigrant. So we have the Chinese here, we have the Mexicans. So America, in terms of tribe and ethnic diversity, it can be compared to Liberia in a similar manner. So, but you cannot, with democracy, you cannot be selective. If you embrace democracy, you have to embrace everything that comes with it. You cannot nitpick what is good for you, unless you want us to change. Politicians want us to change the name of the country to the tribal or the traditional Democratic Republic of Liberia, which can, with certain tribal or democratic value, with muscle free speech. So I didn't nowhere in the book I spoke about the president's children, or we spoke about the president's children. Nowhere. We just listed the children. That's all. So in writing, you stay away from the president's family most of the time. But in America here, normally the reason Clar was brought in the conversation was when her husband, President Weah, was trying to praise his wife in an unsophisticated way to his friends on numerous occasions. You will see that. So we didn't go far. We didn't use obscenity in that, beside that one that is being hypocritically, judged by people that haven't understood the full context of that particular paragraph or that particular chapter.
But Professor Clarke,
Yes.
remember, opposition leader of the ANC, Alexander Cummings, disagrees with that. He did not like the language that was used on Clar, and that's why he dismissed his chief of staff, Isaac Vah Jr. So, and other women too, because it is not just Clar, it leads to a much bigger issue of women being denigrated being overlooked, and being undermined in a society dominated by men. So it's a much bigger issue. And Isaac Vah, your co-author, apologized for using those words or those choice of words. And so that is something that we'll talk about. Anyway, let's go forward
No,
here.
no, I want
Let's oh, go ahead.
John,
Go ahead.
I want to point out some errors that came out of the whole Isaac Tupac ANC saga. Mr.
Hmm.
Cummings, I respect a lot. Um, but I just thought it was too, uh, not fair to my co-author. But he had to manage the crisis that that was at hand. So, but he hasn't read the book. Joe Howard Taylor hasn't read the book. None of them read the book, and they went and jumped on the bandwagon to condemn the book. The book, if you have gone through the book talked about Liberian history in depth. Even Mr. Red, if I ask you
Yeah,
why Liberia is called the sweet land of liberty, do you know why?
of course, I know. But again, that is not the focus here. The focus here
That's not the
is
focus
that
because
you,
they're taking a little thing because we
mhm,
tie everything about Liberia into the George Weah story, the good, the bad, the ugly. You cannot write somebody's bio just you just to praise sing him. You got to write it in a human
yeah,
form.
yeah, and that is
That's what we
understandable,
did.
Professor Clark. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, that is totally understandable. And you wrote other things about his start and why he got the start, and the reason why he is successful, or the President Weah is successful, is because of his good work ethics. And so that line that I saw in the book of his good work ethics and how disciplined he is, and going back in 1988, he had to train with Monaco, and he was not physically fit, but he trained, he made an effort, and he became a star. And so look at a person who is uh is trained, or who respects self-discipline, or who practices the virtue of self-discipline, which of course is the fruit of the Holy Spirit, according to Paul in the book of Ephesians or Galatians. Now, how do you see President Weah now in his governance? Do you think all of those patterns of behavior, his conduct leading up to the presidency, because in order for you to be elected or president of a country, the populace must trust you to give you power to lead them. So where he's at now at the helm of power, what do you think? What is your perspective? How do you view him now? And how do you think our country's future under him is going to be?
We haven't written that part of the his presidency, which is the next book that is coming up. Because this man, George Weah, when it comes to discipline, I was just listening to George Weah, the interview we had with George Solo, who spent years with. He said, he told George Weah wakes up every morning at 4 o'clock. He doesn't care what time he goes to bed. At 4 o'clock, and then that's when his work starts. How many people? Because they said we have this saying that while they are lazy people sleep, the creative people are up and working and creating things, while the rest of the world is asleep. So, and that's the man, he disciplined himself. Why people were acting? You think? I mean, George Weah was a better player than James Salazar Diba? No, but George Weah kept his focus. He disciplined himself. While other people were going after practice, he stayed there and he kept practicing. He kept practicing. And of course, in his adult life, up to now, George Weah still wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning. No matter, in his presidency. But I don't want to comment on his presidency now because it's the next book that's supposed to be coming out next year. Because this book is just his dream, the legend, and his rise to power. It has nothing to do with George Weah's presidency. And George Weah happened to just be a kind of blessing and a curse to Liberia.
Why a curse?
Because people during the time of the war, George Weah was the only good thing that ever came out of Liberia. That young man, he championed Liberia's cause. He filled up planes with relief items, whether it was donated to him, and flew it into Liberia. That young man, I mean, championed so many causes around the world. And the cause is that, George Weah put Liberia, the map on Liberia, in a sense that he introduced his going into politics, changed so many things about Liberia, especially his uh, destructive political entry into, not destructive, but disruptive political entry into politics. So he put the map of disruptive political campaign on Liberia, besides putting Liberia on the map and raising the bar, Liberia on the map of world soccer or world football and other things. Besides that, he set the bar so high for how African players would be seen in Europe. Because after what George Weah did with that Ballon d'Or, he's the greatest African player. I mean, I can say it with pride and animation whenever I think about it. Winning everything the sport world had to offer. Everything. So
Emmanuel, we get that, but just a follow up on Alex's question. With all of what has been said in the book, I mean, you comparing and contrasting, and you describe George Weah in some glowing colors in the book, which is fair enough, and you give reason for that. But to follow up on the question is, do you believe that George Weah is the leader that Liberia needs today to move the country forward?
I'm not going to comment on politics. We just
Emmanuel, you mentioned his two attempts, the two attempts to be president. So I'm saying, I'm just asking a question, because everything we do, we are political animals, Emmanuel. I agree, you're not a politician, fair enough. But we still think, we still look at things, we analyze things and the rest of that. We're not saying you should be a politician or to get the indulge in the politics today. That's not the intent. We just want to understand from the book perspective, from the glory and description of George Weah. Do you think he is the right person for Liberia today?
You have to, according to Niccolo Machiavelli, he said, if you want to determine the intelligence of a leader, you got to look at the person he surrounds himself with. So, having said that, when George Weah came to power, there were a lot of hope for young people that George Weah would have transformed their lives. But the government in itself, from my personal analysis, had a false start. FALSE, false start. So in that light, it was not easy, because these young people have been fighting for state power. It was just thrown to them. Here is it. And today, the economy, according to family members from back home, is in total. Unemployment is high. People graduate from college, no job, nothing. But it was a lot of people's hope that George Weah would transform their lives and transform the country and make it more competitive among the community of nation. But again, the result says the opposite.
Okay. And so what will you say to those who look at the book and they feel offended, or somehow those who are ready and they conclude that it's just a tabloid, it's not a real book? What will you tell those people, your critics?
Let them write a better book about George Weah. That's all. Let them write a better book than George Weah. Let them go and have George Weah sit down with them, and let them write a perfect, better book. As a writer, you need to write unfiltered about a person. If I was sitting with George Weah, all those information that I gathered, I wouldn't have had it from other people, from his own siblings, people that he grew up with. Your own brother or your sister, they don't lie on you. Maybe they might have malice against you. Who knows? And most of those stories were corroborated by other people. So I don't know what Liberian people, what the readers, but most of these people, they say, they are saying, oh, it's like, have they read the book? No, I have sources. That's why I challenge the government, even George Weah, to go to court. He has no case. Multiple attempts were made for the man to come and verify some of the information. He refused.
Yes, you
So,
said okay.
so you wrote in the book, and I'll just read it, and then I can ask a question. I'll let you take it from, from there. Like a hungry firefighter, prize fighter, George Weah knows the taste of victory and the agony of defeat. Some pundits will say that ever since George Weah became rich and famous, he developed a quote unquote hunter-gatherer mindset as a way of preserving his wealth and status. What do you mean by that? For us who don't know what you're trying to describe, can you just elaborate so that we get clarity from hunter-gathering mindset for us for some education for us?
Why in a hunter and gathering society, what do? They go out to look for food, right? Yeah, they go out and look for food. Once they find the food, what happened? They have to preserve it for the next day. But George Weah, later on, what happened was that he realized that he was being used by some of his friends, some of the people that came to him. So instead of him, just giving his money away to people, he's like, oh, okay, I have realized I made over $80 million that I cannot account for. I help so many people that's why I say George Weah relationship is transactional. If later on he developed that, if he realizes that he cannot benefit from you, he let you go. He only keeps you around when he knows that he will give some sort of intrinsic benefit. You can bring value to him. The hunter and gatherer mentality, that's it right there. When he gets money, it's for him. And we didn't put a lot of those things there because some of the sources never wanted to be put on a record that said, George Weah burns money like he burns cigarette. I mean, though so that's it. The hunter gathering mentality. That mindset. That's it right there. He goes
So
out.
this hunter gathering mindset, is it a plus or a negative in your opinion? Is it a plus
Of
or a
course,
negative?
I mean, depending on how you see it, it can be positive, or it can be negative, depending on how you, the reader, interpret it.
Yeah, it sounds like you're portraying the president as a person without heart or compassion. Contrary to that, there are many other people, even the Lone Star team, our country's national team, praise him for his benevolence, for his free-handedness, for his generosity. What will you tell those people?
Some of the former Lone Star players and those that were in the different clubs with him, they would tell you that George Weah did well for the Lone Star team. He did great, but he also got paid. Some of them would tell you George Weah got paid more than he gave to the Lone Star. But I didn't I couldn't verify that. I spoke with several officials at the sports ministry. They said, oh, he sent vouchers in after every game and he got paid. Some of the players said what George Weah claimed were never given to them. The pattern he should have given it, he didn't give it because he was the coach, the financier, and everything. Once he paid the money, he went back to the Liberian Football Association to get paid back. So it was not like pure benevolent stuff he was doing. He was being transactional. I do this thing, I'm gonna have to get my money back.
But Emmanuel, I'm reading something in here, and I'll read it again. No matter how bad of a shape Liberia found itself in before or during the civil wars, George Emmanuel Weah did that. I don't know, it's a Jamaican word for to show up. And show up every time. And then you continue. He never abandoned Liberia. Not
No,
once. Not once. He gave everything he ever earned on the football field to Liberia and Liberians. So how do we contrast that?
it's not. There's no contradiction. There are no contrasting of it. That's just how it is. Because what happened, George Weah, whenever he was in crowd, people would come to him. He would give them money. He would throw money up at people. He gave. He raised. Uh, he raised money for Liberia during the war for relief efforts in Liberia. He personally bought things for Liberian in refugee camps and in display camps around Monrovia. He showed up. That's how his supporter saw him. Deddeh. I mean, if you one of his favorite songs is Ride Natty Ride. Natty. So it was a guy that said every time the people talk, Natty will give her Natty Deddeh. It's a Jamaican word, which means he always show up no matter what. And the name George Weah opened doors for people. Liberian, once you go in Europe, you say, "Oh, I used to play football with George Weah, but so and so." Hundreds of people gave us instances where George Weah um, name opened doors for them. They got status all over the place. So he showed up for Liberians. He showed up for Liberia when Liberia needed him. But George Weah is a human being. He's not perfect. With all the good things he did for Liberia that many of us haven't, do not recognize or haven't come to a realization of his uh, support for Liberia during the crisis. I mean, one of his friends said because of George Weah giving money to Liberia is the reason, he got broke. Somebody said, no, that's not true. Because George Weah was spending his money on the Concorde, riding the Concorde from New York to Paris to play a game. We're taking
You
few
see,
hours.
Emmanuel, I brought this thing in because people said to you that money he gave for the football team and other things, he will go back and get it. So I'm trying to see what's the contrast and comparison here, where this one says he gave everything he had back to people, but yet and still we're hearing that what he gave, he went back and got it. So I was just a little confused with that. That's why I decided to just play with that.
The man, Lone Star, at that time, they couldn't foot the bill. So he footed the bill, then he sent an invoice.
Okay.
And it took a long time. Instead of the country being disqualified, not showing up for game, he footed it. He gave money to the Lone Star. And of course, he, as a businessman, he was not successful as on the line of business. Every business he got in collapsed.
So are they saying it was not good to give the Lone Star money and go back for it? Is that what you're trying to say?
I mean, different people said George Weah did it just because he wanted to benefit more. Most of our sources, they say if you give him. Some of them said if you give money to the country, it's supposed to be. But George Weah was a businessman. He was working hard for his money.
Okay, so our viewers, if you are just joining us, we're almost ending our broadcast here for today. We have been talking about the new book that is written by co-author Emmanuel Clarke and also the other author, Isaac Vah Jr. And it's about the president's legacy, that is President George Weah legacy. And we've been looking at the behavioral pattern of the president based on the book, his growing up and things that he experienced, as well as his way to start on discipline in doing his craft as a soccer player for Monaco and all the way to other countries. And now he's successful as president of the of Liberia, our country. And this book is causing some stirs as well as controversy because of some things that most women say offend them regarding the president's utterance regarding quote unquote privacy with his wife. But we have been talking with Professor Emmanuel Clarke, and of course, he has unveiled a whole lot here to us today for us to get a glimpse of what it means to be President Weah, or how his behavioral patterns formed his adulthood and his stardom and presidency. And so we are glad that you're joining us. And we just have a few more minutes here. And we really, really appreciate all these comments here. You have a whole lot to say, and that's good. It's good to express yourself in every way. Um, when I mentioned earlier about how United States is different from Liberia, I talk about the size, I talk about predominant population is white. That's what I was trying to say, because there's only 6% of black people you find in the entire United States. And so statistically, that's what I was talking about. Someone was writing here saying, well, we are black too, and the United States had a lot of black people. So that's the difference. Okay, I hope you understand that. Okay, Professor Emmanuel Clarke, you said a whole lot about your book and your perspective regarding the president, his legacy, his family, and the future of our country. Now, before we leave here, let us talk about two things here. The first question will be, what are you hoping to achieve from writing all this about the sitting president?
Mhm.
And
I'm not.
secondly,
The,
the second
okay.
question is, who is Emmanuel Clarke? I know you've been around for a long time as an author, and so let us hear from you regarding some of the things you've been doing, your craft as a writer, a prolific writer as well.
Thank you, Mr. Red. And what I want to achieve by telling George Weah story without I mean, void of George Weah presidency. Um, uh, George Weah's story, like any African football icon or any African icon, hasn't been told by anybody. This is the first book, biography, now not authorized, but biography, research, analyzed, cross-checked, verified, written, re-audited, and rewritten. That's what we do in writing. You got to write, audit, and rewrite by by Liberians, by two brilliant Liberians living in the U.S. and of course meeting residents in Liberia. We wrote this book in order to tell the beautiful story of Africa's greatest football icon, from his birth in Nimba County all the way to his ascendancy to the presidency. I mean, George Weah story, this story, which is more inspiring than you can think about the little blips or blurb or snippet, is more tied into what we are today. There are a lot of takeaway in the book, especially when it comes to Liberia's history, past history, and some of the impactful things that have happened. Everything in this book. So we tie George Weah's story into the larger Liberian story, and we put it out there for the world to see that Liberia is a great country. And George Weah being the greatest son of Liberia, we wanted to also present him to the world. That was one of the reasons. And of course, I came to this country going 26, 27 years in the 1990s. I attended school in New Jersey. I started my teaching career at Mercer, one of my alma mater. And later on, I went to Burlington. I mean, it was at Mercer County College where I wrote my first book, and that the college started to use my book. And I was an instructor there, but when the college decided to adapt my book and make it an instructional book, they gave me the rank of a professor. From there, I started teaching Burlington County College. I moved to North Carolina um, and started teaching at Forsyth. Then went to Liberia. I taught briefly at the United Methodist University. I consulted with the Liberian government, the Ministry of Education. I did some free work for them. I mean, tried to develop curriculum for the ministry to teach technology in all the schools. Then came back and went back to work for SciTech as a um, professor. Then later on, quite a few months ago, I'm serving a dual role as a cybersecurity liaison for the national. Oh, I shouldn't talk it for the U.S. federal government and the college. My role is to recruit and give scholarship to deserving students of the college, um, and also because we are in a cyber war with the Chinese, the Russian, the Iranian. Liberia is far. I mean, the United States is far back, so that's what I've been doing and been writing. I have written. I have ghost written so many books for people, but writing is my passion. Though I do other things to, pay the bills, but writing has been my passion. My first book came out 2006 to a huge acclaim, and you know that's why since the first book came out, I have just gotten. I mean, I just went on a roll. Sometimes, some years, I write about 2 books, and just spitting it out. So I'm even mentoring a lot of people because I'm looking for the next Emmanuel Clarke, so young Liberian with the hunger. They should be hungry for success. I can teach you how to. I'm willing to teach the next generation of Liberian writers how to write best-selling books that would be number one in the world. It's not about me. Okay, they can throw me under the bus, but Liberia deserves better. Liberia is a great country, and we can't be sitting there and be walking with our heads down. We need to walk with our heads high up, and we need to have books over there that will contextualize Liberia, our own story. We need to tell our own story and not allow other people to tell your story. The reason
what are those other books about, Emmanuel?
That's the first book, In Tears and Blood. It was about the Liberian Civil War. It's about the Civil War and its impact on women and children, and that's what made it so successful. I have written tons of technical college books. They've used it. I mean, they're using it in Liberian school. I know they're going to start demonstrating to get those books out of the schools.
And I understand you're a family man. How has your faith in Jesus Christ helped you all through this journey of life with your family?
I remember, look, man, God is real. That's all I can say. I remember it was 96 before I was going for my visa. Man, I was so close to the Lord. I told God, man, if you get me, because when people went for the visa interview, they would turn them down. So it was in Sierra Leone. I used to work in Sierra Leone as a journalist. And so I prayed that day. I fasted for so long. This God is real. No matter what, you don't mess with God. And if you want anything, pray sincerely without doubt. That thing will be done for you. So I pray, I fasted, and I told God, if you are God, prove yourself to me. When I go to that place for the interview, the American woman shouldn't ask me any question. Can you imagine? Man, I went there, I was scared like a chicken. So when I went in the room, the woman asked me, what is your name? I called my name. She told me, go. I said, I was dumbfounded. I said, the interview's finished. She said, yes. I went out. Then the guy asked me what happened. I said, she said I should go. So then the guy, he went there. He said, are you done? He said, yes. He said, then he looked at me. He said, my man, I think they're not giving you the visa. So I went back. I said, and I asked the lady, is the interview? She said, yes. Welcome to the United States of America. Just like that. You see how God works?
Yes.
So what if you did not get a visa? Will you still trust God because God answered you? That's why you believe. Or what? Because sometimes you pray, it doesn't happen the way you want it. So what would have been the difference if she had said no? You're not going anywhere. Go right back to where you came from.
Reverend Deddeh, don't be a man of lack of faith. You man lack of faith, you get deep behind me. Because I'm a man. When I pray that something happens. I just wait for the natural manifestation. That's all I do.
But Emmanuel, the truth is, it's good to have faith, but sometimes God does not give you what you want at once. There's a lot of scripture to that, and we in real life, we pray for things. Sometimes you don't get it the first time. So it does not mean it's a lack of faith. It's that, in fact, that's when your faith should even grow stronger. When you don't get what you want to get, you go back to God and say, God, I'm still here. I'm still knocking. I'm still asking. So that does not mean lack of faith. It's lack of faith when you give up and throw in the towel and walk away. Then it's a lack of faith. In despair, you don't do it in hopelessness. You do it in hopefulness because you know that the God you serve, yes, this door is closed for now, but you're going to open another door at a particular time. So it's not lack of faith, but it's just that you got to get stronger. That's the point.
No, Reverend, let me tell you the problem with a lot of Christians out there.
Yeah.
Christians have become beggars.
Mm.
All you guys do, all most of us do, every day go to God to beg. I ask God for something one time. I don't go back to him for the same thing. He's a reasonable father. I just thank him for giving me what I pray for. That's all I do.
Right.
I don't go, I'm telling you, everything that I have ever prayed for before I release this particular book. You see, God works in a mysterious way. That's it was Sunday. It was the 17th. That Saturday morning, when I released the book, I said, God, make the book a bestseller.
Which this current book?
This book. I said, make the book a bestseller. Thank you for making it a bestseller. And I left it to God. No matter how bad the situation had turned, but God will use the enemy for your victory. This story is resonating around Africa. George Weah's story. Beside the little, editorial stuff that there with something, George Weah's story is a great story that can motivate and inspire a lot of people. And it's out there. So that's what happened. The following week, I put it 2 weeks later, the book became #1 bestseller on Amazon and in the world.
How much have you made so far from that book?
So you can come rob me?
I wouldn't do that.
I'm not even thinking about money.
Horrible man, Emmanuel. He's an horrible man. He wouldn't do that.
I don't know. I don't think about. I don't think about money. I don't write because I'm motivated by money. I write because I have the passion to write. You see, Jesus died because of his love for humanity, for the children of the world. So the next book, I started writing it, and I'm just going to thank God for making it a #1 bestseller. And if you want, Reverend Deddeh and Pastor Dr. Red, you guys have great books in here. Dr. Red has done, we started something which we're going to complete, he and myself, and you guys have best-selling books in you guys just need to bring it out. That's all. And I don't think about money or whatever. People send me a lot of messages. I should donate. I can give the money. Whatever proceed we get from the book, we can do whatever we want to do with it. But I'm comfortable as a teacher. You know what really make me happy? When I go in the classroom, when somebody comes, when the kids come, when I solve a problem for them, and when they say, that aha effect on their faces, I know the answer. Like God, he knows the answer, but I give them the problem. When they can't figure it out, I already know how to solve the problem. You see, and
so Emmanuel, before we close, I know we already gone deep into our time. But let me ask you this question. Just a soul searching question. What would you like to redo?
In terms of what?
In terms of anything you want to think about, your life, your career, your profession, and everything. What would you want to redo in terms of what you look at now and say, I should have done it this way or that way? What it is?
I wish because I wish I had gone into writing earlier, because when I came here in the US, during the college I was going to, I took a test and I was going to be I was doing computer science. The test resulted that I would be a writer. I was upset. I'm like, what? This in the 90s, the .com was coming. Everybody doing computer programming, computer. I wish I had gone into writing, but you know, you cannot run away from your soul's calling. I mean, you know, but when you wake up in the morning and the thing you think about all the time is what your soul is calling you to do. A lot of us ignore that little voice that we hear, that thumb in the further reaches of our awareness or in our subconscious minds. So I wish I had gone into writing, to tell you the truth, because I would have been further today than I am now. But you know what? With God, for him, time is everything. Maybe it was not the time.
Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
it was
Well,
Emmanuel, who is your hero? That's what my and others can take it from there. Who is your hero?
oh man, my mother.
I thought
You
you were going to
know,
say George Weah.
George Weah is my football hero, no question about that. But this woman, she's like 4 feet something. After my father died, my mother couldn't afford anything. My brother brought me to her to stay with her. She didn't know me from anywhere. She's raised me. Yeah.
It's okay, brother. It's okay. It's
It's
okay.
okay.
Yes. She gave me everything. She gave me everything, sent me to private school. Some of the great schools. Without her, I would have still been in the village, you know. Yeah.
You came a long way, and your faith has brought you this far. And
It's okay,
our
brother. It's
God is the
okay.
God. Our God said the scripture says this in the book of Hebrews. It says that He would not forsake you nor leave you. He would
I'll
not
leave
leave you
you.
nor forsake you.
Yeah.
And we are glad that you're sharing your faith here. And you are a family man. And of course, what is about this whole cooking thing here? What are your favorite recipes before we close here?
But, I'm the best cook, you know. I mean, the
What are your
children
favorite
love it.
recipes?
Pan
What?
butter and cassava leaf.
What? Pambara? I can cook pambara cassava liver. When you mix it, then you put the butter beans in it. When you
Oh
Hmm.
wow.
Yeah, you put a butter beans. Sometimes if you cook in the Freetown way, you got to put insert in the quality G bloss or the quality Jakato. You
What is
mix
that?
the cassava. You drop the. Yeah. But I don't like. What I don't like is I don't like bunny. But
Okay.
I call bunny like poor man food. Yeah. Yeah,
Poor
so
man food.
I can cook cassava leaf. I can. First of all, a lot of people don't know how to cook. I was in Liberia. I hired somebody to work for me. You know, I hired somebody to work for me. What they were cooking for me. So the maid never cooked good. So what I did was I told her, you know what, I will cook for you. She went in the market. She brought a potato grill. I cut it everything. She said, "Oh, you come from America? You know how to cook?" I said, "Well, let me teach you." I seasoned the meat, I pop boiled it, everything. Then I went and fry everything. And when she tasted it, she said, bossman, you can cook. Just a woman. Oh. Who teach you how to cook? I said, my mom taught me. Oh.
But what is jagato? You didn't explain what is jagato. You talking about what
Jagato
is
is
that?
airplane. Airplane. You can put it in potato green. You can put it in the palm butter. They call it palm soup. And it has something they call G-bloss.
Wow.
Bitter ball. That bitter ball.
Oh
Those are
Lordy.
Creole names. Yeah.
Oh, see.
So the woman,
Well,
guess what they made? What she did? She quit the next day. She said, "I can't cook like you. I will not feel right to cook for you." She fired herself.
That's interesting.
Yes.
That's interesting. But thanks for sharing. Though we appreciate that. The human interest and everything. We appreciate that. Ellis, you can go ahead. I'm going to give
yes,
you
yes. And
time.
we'd like to thank you so much for being our guest today, Professor Emmanuel Clarke. You've come a long way. I know we are working on a book project. We talked about it a while ago, but we'll get back on that as well. And you have
All
written
right.
a lot of books, 13 books, and looking forward to the sequel, right? Is that a sequel? to
Yeah, yeah.
the latest book that you wrote on the President legacy with Mr. Isaac Vah Jr. Tuba
Yeah,
Jr.
we're working on the next book is about his administration.
Administration. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to that. Hopefully, he will give you the permission for interview and gathering other facts. However, to all our listeners, we'd like to say thank you so much. This is the Gracious Hope's live stream podcast on KMTV and Gracious Hope Fellowship.com. And today we've been talking about the psychology of President George Weah, his behavioral patterns, as well as his conduct and his entire legacy in life. And this is all predicated on the book written by Mr. Isaac Vah Jr. and Professor Emmanuel Clarke. And we are so glad to see him here today. Please share this link, okay? Share this video or this live stream with your friends, your family, and your relative. And this is a place to make your voice heard. And of course, our program here or podcast is all about contemporary issues that affect the Christian life of faith. We talk about matters that affect you. We bring awareness and we use biblical undertones or biblical principles and values to safeguard our discussion. And so all the characters we're talking about today here, they are all Christians. President Weah is a Christian. Emmanuel Clarke is a Christian. Isaac Vah Jr. is a Christian. These are the writers. And of course, it's a platform, a forum where we can talk about things that occur in our lives and how we can make sense out of those things, as well as being committed or stay committed to our faith in Christ. And of course, Reverend Suah Deddeh is a co-host here. And it is nice meeting you after a long time, Professor Clarke. And again, we'll be in touch. Thank you so much for your appearance today and accepting our invitation.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having me.
Professor Clarke. Thank you very much.
All right, Reverend Deddeh. So that's it for today. And of
Yeah.
course, we'll be back here next week, the same time, Saturday, 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And for those who are living in Liberia, it is 9 o'clock p.m. Um, GMT. So we'll be back here next Saturday. And don't forget, tomorrow, Sunday, Reverend Deddeh is going to be here bringing his regular Bible study teaching.
Yes, yes.
And please join him at 5 p.m. Eastern Time and 4 p.m. Central Time. And that's it. And I'll also be here tomorrow as well in the afternoon to bring you the regular Sunday message. Thank you so much. And may you have a blessed weekend. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.